Welcome to the Black on Shelf podcast, a podcast championing Black and Brown entrepreneurs on the digital and physical shelves. I'm your host, Tanaj Ferguson. This is Black on Shelf.
All right. So welcome to Black on Shelf podcast. Today we have Barbara Jacques. Jacques.
Yes.
Here, everybody, Jacques. Like shop Jacques. I got that part right. So we're talking to Barbara Jacques, and you're Haitian.
Yes, I am Haitian.
She's going to talk to us about her background. So Barbara is the founder and creative director of JACQ'S, a vegan and clean beauty skincare line available on Target.com and direct to consumer on shopjacq.com. So we're going to learn all about this. There's a lot of great topics here: sustainability, really turning a pain point that you personally have. In her case, a health scare. We'll learn about that, and really following your passion. So as we do that, Barbara's going to talk to us more about how did she become this phenomenal entrepreneur that we're so admiring. So Barbara, talk to us about your background.
So yes, I am Barbara Jacques from Miami, Florida, born to Haitian parents. Grew up here in South Florida, spent a lot of my summers in Haiti, went to school in Haiti for a little bit, and came back here around like maybe 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Spent about maybe less than a year in Haiti going to school. And then I just basically grew up all over South Florida, from everywhere, from Liberty City, Wynwood, North Miami. And then I went away to go to school, in Orlando.
Okay.
Transferred out there from UCF to go to USF, and I graduated with a communications degree.
Okay.
Both my parents actually are entrepreneurs. My mom, if anybody is of Caribbean descent, did import-export. Where you basically,
I'm Bahamian, so I'm jiving with you.
Yes. Where you basically, she had an auction license. My dad actually had a thrift store here in Little Haiti, that closed in the 80s. But she had an auction license where she would go to auction sales, auction estates, where she would purchase items and then put them on a ship. We'll put them in boxes. We were her workers, and she bought everything from shoes, clothes, toys, furniture, and put them on a ship. And then she sold it to merchants there. So if you've ever had a chance to go to Haiti, you'll see all the women that are out hustling, where they're selling clothes, purse, toys, everything. My mom was one of the many women that did that. And because she did this very early on in like late 80s, all of 90s until she passed away, she was basically one of the few women in Haiti that did this on a massive scale. And so a lot of my entrepreneur spirit comes from seeing her hustle on a day-to-day, and seeing her thrive and work hard and grow her business. So that's a little bit about me.
Do you speak Creole?
Oh, yes. I'm very fluent in Creole. Yes.
Beautiful. Yes. Because you went to school there for some time, but you also grew up in the Haitian household where you all spoke Creole at home, I'm guessing?
We spoke Creole. So I grew up in a very interesting home, right? My mom came here when she was in her early 20s. So she was very Americanized. We did speak Creole. And when I went to school in Haiti for that year, we actually went to an American school. So we were only allowed to speak English, because most of the schools in Haiti, or most of the institutions in Haiti, speak French. So since I didn't speak French, my younger brother and I were enrolled into an English school. But it was because my mom wanted to learn English. And one of the things that she wanted to get rid of was her accent, because a lot of people thought she was Bahamian.
Really?
Because of her accent. We had to speak English around the house so that she can pick up English a little bit quicker. And she read a lot of novels. And so most of the times that we spoke Creole in the home, were when family members came by. You got in trouble for sure. When
Definitely.
You got in trouble, they'd be like, "Baba," and I'm like, "Yes, mommy." Or when they're having adult conversations, like adult conversations where you aren't. So basically I did speak Creole, and of course our other family members spoke Creole to us. But and my mom was she wanted to lose her English accent, so she enrolled herself, and she got her GED. And I remember she enrolled herself in a hair school, which is how I got into beauty,
Oh,
cosmetology school. So that it was her and her sister, they enrolled in a cosmetology school here in South Florida so
yeah.
that they can kind of learn the language and learn how to write and speak it. They did that. They graduated, but my mom was like, I need more, right?
Yeah.
And so she enrolled in one of the high schools here down the street in Miami, not Western. If you're from Miami, you know about the West.
Hey.
But yeah, so to kind of help her with her English, we were a very fluent Creole-ish kind of house where you spoke English and Creole at the same time. You know, yeah. So yeah. And it's
That's
funny because
interesting.
my nieces and nephews, I have family members in Haiti, and my nieces and nephews make fun of my Creole because I have an English accent. But they get it.
Yeah, they understand.
They get it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that your mom was she went to beauty school to become a
Mm-hmm.
stylist. Did she end up working at a salon or anything from out of that?
So she did work at a salon for a little bit, but she just couldn't find a steady job as a cosmetologist. Is that what's called? A
Yeah,
cosmetologist or a
cosmetologist.
hairstylist?
Yeah.
You know, little backstory. My mom, I'm one of 6.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mom was one of those teenage kids that had children while she was a teenager. So she had her first child at 16. She had
Mm-hmm.
me, number 5, at 23, and she had my younger brother at 26.
Okay.
And so with that being said, you have all these kids to feed. You have, I would call it overhead, but you have, to maintain a lifestyle. And then you have kids that are, half the kids are in Haiti, half the kids are here. The money wasn't coming in quick enough. She did work as a housekeeper at one of the hotels, but the money still wasn't enough without having a diploma here in the early 80s. And so that's how she got into import export,
Right.
because it allowed her to make money quicker and at a much and make more profit, just make more money quicker to be able to take care of her family.
Yeah.
So she did that for a little bit, but it didn't last. But it does fuel my love for beauty because I was her doll. And I have this funny story where I had a teacher in 2nd grade, Miss Williams. I will never forget Miss Williams. And she sent, I used to talk a lot, so I'm chatty, right? And she would send notes home to my mom. We were like, Barbara was talking too much and blah, 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 blah.
We could have been friends in school, girl.
And my mom would practice in my hair because, they have exams. They have enabled me to learn how to do certain things, finger waves, haircuts, braids. And I remember her learning how to do extensions and giving me a bob, not a bob, like a long bob.
Yeah.
Like, what is that called? I can't remember what it's called. And my teacher was done with my mom. She was like, Barbara Jean. My maiden name is Jean Charles, right?
Okay.
She would be like, Barbara Jean, I'm tired of your mama. I'm sending a note home today. She got to stop playing in your hair, baby. So she sent a note home because my mom, in the process of her
giving you these adult
bob,
styles,
she cut my hair.
Oh,
right. And my mom, and I've always been known
like an asymmetric Rihanna type.
Yeah,
cut?
cut. She cut the bob, like she cut it, like. And my mom has always had this philosophy, like it's hair to grow back. But I don't even think she realized that she cut it when she was burning it, because that was from the days you're burning the ends,
Oh.
And she was just trying to practice on my hair. Girl, when I tell you I have horror stories from middle school, these hairstyles, because I was her test dummy.
Yes.
But she sent a note home and said, stop playing in this baby's hair. And I was like, she was like, what is this? I said, my teacher told me to give you this.
Oh, she like, mind your business, teacher, Miss Williams.
Yes, Miss Williams was not playing. She was like, you're going through too many hairstyles, baby. Too much.
Too much. So fast forward, your mom, you kind of get introduced to beauty. I'm sure you accelerated playing with your hair and doing makeup because you're like, let me take this responsibility on. You're kind of making a lot of mistakes here. I got this, right? What happens from there? You did communications. Where did you think your career path was going to go?
So I went into communications. And I thought I wanted to work because I did want to work in PR.
Okay.
I did want to work in PR, and I wanted to work in a not-for-profit sector because I fell into that as doing internships. I remember one of my favorite internships was working for the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Yeah.
And I did that for a little bit. And once I left, and I volunteered a lot. My mom was really big into giving into the community, and so that was instilled in me. And so I would volunteer a lot for the homeless shelters, feeding the homeless, donating clothes. Even when I worked, I worked for AT&T when I was in college, and I would do a lot of clothes drives to donate clothes to Haiti.
Yeah.
Or even to the homeless shelters. And so it's just still like, it just holds a major part in my heart. So I ended up getting a job working for the Urban League and here in South Florida. And I did work in the communications department,
Okay.
or as they call it, the development department, doing communications, community outreach, event planning, a little bit of PR, a lot of networking. And so that's where I excelled. But it kind of, what leads into that is, after graduating from college, I don't share this often to story. Both my parents have passed away when I was at the age of 15.
Wow. We are sorry to hear that.
Yes, thank you. And having to put myself through school when you in your teens, or early
15.
20s, the best. Yeah. Like 19, around like 19, 20, right before I went into college, because I kind of started college a little bit later. I needed to pay bills, right? I needed to be able to pay my rent. I had a car note at the time. The best jobs for that were here in South Florida was communications job, call center jobs, right? So I've worked for every telephone company you could possibly think of.
You're like, I'm 19 and I'm about to get this money.
It's the best because, working at the mall, you can only get so much, right? And you don't have that much experience. You don't know. You just want to look cute. You want to get your hair done, but you still don't know about showing up on time. You don't understand like the value. But, at a call center job, it kind of reeled in because they were very strict about customer service. They were very strict about signing on. They was very strict about the protocol. And I excelled at that.
Okay.
And then you had to sell. So when I moved to Orlando, I got telemarketing jobs where I had to sell. Some of them were cold calls. Some of them were, eventually I got into the marketing department when I worked for Sprint. And that allowed me to basically kind of delve into marketing and what that was and what that entailed. And then kind of seeing it from a different perspective, from a business perspective, as opposed to a customer's perspective. And being able to understand what quotas are, right?
Yeah.
And
you have those real KPIs. It's not fluffy.
Yes.
I'm not just getting on the phone with people. I need to have a conversion. Something needs to happen as a result of this call.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have your customer service voice, so you have to sound a particular way. You have to be extremely professional. You have to follow up.
So give us your usual introduction. We need this since you've worked at all the call centers. Give us a little example of this.
I can't believe you had me on here talking about
on the spot, Barbara.
So you ready for it?
I'm ready.
Okay, let me fix my earpiece. I'm going to give you a JACQ'S call.
So I'm gonna say hello.
Hello, and thank you for calling JACQ'S. This is Barbara. How can I help you?
So
can I have your telephone number?
Yes, you can. So I'm calling because I'm looking for the best skincare. I'm having acne and I need help now.
I'll be much more than happy to assist you with that. I have a few questions, if you don't mind me asking. What is your first name, please?
Gosh.
Oh.
Really?
Yes.
On the spot, though, Barbara.
Yes, but it's part. It's part of
wear all the hats. So Barbara's like, I'm creative director and founder. I'm also on the phone. If you didn't know, that was me.
A lot of the times, customers don't know that they're talking to me because that's the best way for me to find out like what's going on, right?
Information.
But this is
you are amazing, by the way.
Yes, thank you. I feel like this is at the core of what JACQ'S is, right? Being able to understand, and it took me a while to realize like a lot of the jobs that I went through in terms of sales, working at department stores, working as a customer service rep, working in just office jobs has been the foundation to where I am today. Because if it were not for those jobs, I wouldn't understand the importance of customer service. I wouldn't understand the importance of meeting a quota. I wouldn't understand the importance of having things this particular way, particularly being a Black-owned business. Where we have that stigma of being a Black-owned business, because a lot of people, when they see me in person, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were Black. And I'm just like,
yes. And skilled, multi-skilled. Something I want you to dig into, because I think your story is a great example and your perspective on this is really amazing. I'm sure there were times when you were like, man, I really wish I didn't have to do all these types of jobs. I wish I could just be more straight and narrow and linear. Like I could just go to school and get this one thing or not have the struggle. But ultimately for you, it turned into a ton of experience that most people don't have. And again, even though it was more hard work, look at, you're able to pour all of this back into your business. What would you say to folks who feel like their journey is really frustrating or not as linear as they might want to be? Maybe they started school late or have to do this unconventional path. They're not doing the high paying job. They're at the call center or doing something they don't think they really want to do today. What would you say to them about really leveraging that moment and seeing that as still a path forward?
I think everything happens for a reason, right? With me having to take care of myself at a very early age and kind of put my big girl panties on, and even me starting school extremely late and graduating late, I think everything happens for a reason, because oftentimes we have our own vision or our idea of what the life that we want, but God has that plan. And sometimes, and I hate to say this because it's the salesperson in me, because I've been trained to think like when that door closes, you find another way in. But oftentimes, and I'm a Taurus, I'm very stubborn. I'm trying to knock on that door 10 different ways, but that door may not be for you and something better might be on the other side. Because in my head, when I went to college, I was thinking, I want to work in communications. And I didn't know what that meant. I just knew eventually I wanted to work in PR and I wanted to this, I wanted to do that, but that was not the plan or the path laid out for me. And understanding that working at Publix as a cashier allowed me to get past my shyness to be able to speak to people. And then that got me the job to work at Nordstrom so that I was able to speak to people eloquently and not be afraid to sell to people in a way, because I had my goals to meet at the end of the night. Right. And then being able to sell to people on a call or just be able to pitch my business comfortably and professionally without them knowing who that other person is on the other line, but get lost in the story, right? Or get lost in the value that we're presenting so that they can trust the company that they've never heard of. And so these things that you're going through in life, and as cliche as it may sound, it really is true, is leading you to whatever it is. Because I didn't wake up saying, I want to own a skincare brand. No, honestly, it started off as a hobby of me trying to find a way to deal with what I was going through when I learned I had my tumor. Right. And then it was actually my husband and other people around me that was saying, you're passionate about this, or you're really good at this. And I think people gravitate towards you when you talk about it. And I think there may be something here. And I was like, listen, I need to clock in. I need to pay off these student loans. I'm not worried about selling to nobody.
Right.
Like I really just wanted to work a 9 to 5 and understanding that the plan was so much bigger. And it took me even realizing it, like praying, like, is this the path that I'm supposed to be on? Because I kept fighting it, having other people being able to see something in you that you're passionate about, or even seeing the skills that you may not necessarily see that you may have. Because I can sometimes be an introvert, but when it's time, I know it's time for that part of me to come out and speak about myself and my business. But it took me a while to own that, because I didn't want to share my story in the beginning because it was something private, And I think oftentimes, now the narrative is different, where what is being communicated to the public is to share your story and own that story. But when I started this about 7-8 years ago, we don't talk about what you're going through in terms of, it was kind of shush. Okay, this person might have a tumor. This person might be going through chemo. This person might have cancer. Or this person may be going through something. That is an intimate thing that you and your family share or know about. And that's even if you want to share with certain people parts of your family, right? Now everybody's telling me, oh, girl, I got leukemia. Oh, girl, this, that. But that's part of their story, because we now have drilled it in them to share that. But the path that you're on is meant to be on the path that you're on. And oftentimes you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? And you may not understand it. But, I feel like our Father, God, has a way of kind of gearing, like shifting you in that direction, whether you see it or not. And then blessings start to pour in. When you start to come into your own or walk that path or that mission that you're supposed to be on.
Yeah. So I know we alluded to some of your origin story around the tumor, but talk to us, like, what were the events that really led you to think about creating a vegan skincare line that was, not toxic? Talk to us about sort of what was happening in your life at the time that really led you to this business.
So at the time, my husband James and I decided we were going to start our family. I think it was like a year and a half after I graduated from school. And I've always been into the kind of holistic natural lifestyle. I've been natural now for about 22 years.
Wow.
I've had everything from locks, twist, puff, braids, girl, you think about it.
Yeah.
But I was that girl that was all about her hair. And when it came to natural products, I knew what ingredients to avoid, right? And once I learned that I was expecting and then immediately finding out that I had this ovarian tumor, I didn't make the connection in terms of clean products, because here I am. I'm just thinking, okay, let me just find out what's going on with my body, because I didn't even know that I had fibroids, for one. And then finding out that I'm pregnant and I have a tumor, it was like very depressing, because, well, one part, your life is about to start. Being this young woman who just graduated from school, your life is about to start. You're about to start this family. And then now you have this terminal ill news where they don't know if it's benign or not. I'm on bed rest. I'm 3 weeks pregnant. I don't even know, I can't really enjoy my pregnancy. And here I am thinking like, oh, I work out 3-4 times a week. I eat healthy. I'm assuming that I do yoga. I'm doing this meditation thing. I'm thinking I'm living this healthy lifestyle, but there were other outside factors like my family. I didn't know that my mom actually had she had fibroids as well, right? And so that part was hereditary.
Yeah.
Number two, me being this I love information, right? So I just started learning about my tumor, what the name was, just started researching as much as I possibly could, reading about medical journals, because the internet wasn't giving me much of anything. And stumbled upon a medical journal talking about how Black women and Black children, as a matter of fact, are exposed to twice the amount of toxins in beauty products and skincare products. And I was like, let me read some more. I still have a copy of this medical journal that I read. And it just started going down the list of all the ingredients. Most of them were in the hair care products, but a lot of them were, just linked to were carcinogenic, allergen, ovarian, linked to ovarian issues. And I just went to Whole Foods at the time, being my little bougie self.
Hello, that was where we were going when health. Okay, go there. Okay. Something you can find something.
Going to Whole Foods, and at the time when I lived in Orlando, there were farmers markets, but they didn't sell body products, right? And so I was in that aisle for a good hour, and everybody kept coming up to me and was like, "Do you need help?" I'm like, "Nope. Here's my sheet." Sheet my hand, and I'm just like, "Okay, this ain't good. This ain't good." And it was only, I think, 1 or 2 products. And then the other thing is that you want to feel like, because part of self-care is, feeling like you bought something with pride and that it looks aesthetically beautiful and it makes you feel beautiful as you're using it, right?
Definitely.
And I'm looking at this product, I'm like, what is this? I'm just going to be real with you. I'm like, what is this? And it smelled a little funny. And I bought a bag full of soap bars, and I was like, I got shea butter, so let me just use that on my skin. I already use it now. We got the lotion part down. I can use some oils, but let's start off with the soap, and toothpaste wasn't even an option at the time,
That's true.
And I didn't want to take it back to the charcoal, because I know when I grew up in Haiti, they used to make fun and be like, you could scrub your teeth with charcoal and it'll make you white. And I'm like, I don't want to take it back that far, not yet, not just yet, which is the norm now, right?
Yes, those old things are coming back and they're all rebranded.
Exactly. So here I was, and I took it. We were using the products, and my husband James broke out. He had an eczema breakout, and I don't have eczema, and he didn't even know. He didn't even know he had eczema. But what happened was that the product that we brought was the shelf life. It was rancid, and so he had an allergic reaction because he used bad soap, and so I was like, bruh, like, we got to do something. I went down the rabbit hole of learning so much about natural products, and I went down the rabbit hole of no preservatives, and I just was like, this doesn't make sense. I launched originally with just products that I was making inside my homes, like experimenting with soap bars, experimenting with melt and pour. And I was like, this is not it.
So how long ago was this? When was your sort of like, when you consider the inception of JACQ'S?
The inception of JACQ'S happened about 10 years ago. Yeah, because my daughter just turned 10. And so I was doing this pregnant in my kitchen, in my tiny kitchen, ordering products off of everywhere I can find on Google, trying to find natural ingredients, going to as many different farmers markets that I could here in South Florida, because by this time we had moved back home to be close to my family so I can deliver and, just say my goodbyes if necessary. And then I just started it was the part about making your own products, I think, which is why it's so common now, is that there's a form of therapy in it. Yeah. Right. You get lost in trying to calculate. You get lost in sourcing. You get lost in the process of making. And then even having to wait for the product to get ready to use. Like, for example, soaps take about 8 weeks to cure. You taking that much pride, like, oh my gosh, I made this. I want to see if it works. Right. And when you're bathing with it, it's even another kind of sensory experience. And that was part of my therapy of dealing with what I was going through. And then I looked up and I had like a bunch of products that were all over our house. And I started giving them away as Christmas gifts and birthday gifts. And my husband was like, yo, this is expensive. You got to get rid of this. And we can't go through all this soap. Right. And so a family, very close family, when we call our family, she was like, hey, I think you should start this at the farmer's market. It's like $30 to set up. And I started selling it at the farmer's market. Aww. And started moving the products. Like, I was knee deep in the craft. I was making cupcake soaps. I had people contacting me to make, what is it called? Bath, like wedding favors, birthday favors. I was knee deep in it.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what? I need to go back to work. Let me get a job. I got these student loans. Let me get my life together.
All the way.
And so I did that moonlighting. I moonlighted doing that. Even at the events at the Urban League, I would set up a table, working the events, had a table, and I was like checking people out. I was like, girl, you got to get the shea butter. Come on now.
The sales girl in her was like, I can do both. I can check people in and I can sell myself.
And on the weekends, I had my husband there and his best friend was there. We had the baby. We were selling it, trying to move product. But what that did was, that was market research, because the things I learned very early on, that the things that I liked were not some of the things that the masses like, right? And they were like, do you have lavender? Do you have orange? Do you have this? Do you have that? And I was like, no. And they're like, well, we use this and it didn't feel as good. And we use that. And so I would go back and reformulate it. And building my small community here in South Florida. Yeah. Just trying to learn about just moving product a lot quicker, ultimately. And I was selling the products. And one of the young ladies that was hosting the product, she was like, I heard your story. I think you should share it. And I was like, what? I didn't even tell my family. Some of my family, do you want me to share my story? So I eventually went up and I shared my story. And that's when I realized that a lot of women that were in the room, like 250 women that were in the room, were going through something and could relate, right? But number one, they didn't even know about the effects of the toxins and how prevalent it was in the beauty community when it comes to Black women. You know, if you're into beauty and you're into hair, the beauty supply store is like a second home to you. You know what kind of hair you want. You know about these shades. You know about this lipstick. You know you gonna find $2 mascara. It's your place, especially if you're on a budget. And so to learn that my safe haven didn't include some of the cleanest products for us, but it was easily accessible everywhere else. The light bulb came on, you know? Yeah. And that's when I started to realize, somebody said to me, you know, this is bigger than you. And you don't realize that you have something in you that a lot of people don't have. And sharing your story is the vehicle that you're going to share this message. I agree. Yeah. And so that's how I just started to eventually, I think about within that year, I quit my job. I quit my job, my full-time job. Which, you know, I wouldn't advise to anybody because, girl.
Keys. All right. Give us the keys.
Number one, right? I quit my job, but I had an agreement with my spouse that I would, if it didn't pop off within the first year, I would go back to working for myself. The problem is when you work for yourself for so long, or you get the taste of it, you don't want to work for nobody else.
You don't want to go back. So you have to make this pop off.
Yeah. And the thing is that, you know, you have to do it in a way where, because now I'm hustling and the hustle I did, you know, we were making strides. Right. But I had a small amount of money saved, but we went through that really quickly.
Right.
And, you know, having to have that discussion, because I am lucky that I'm able to do this journey with someone, because most people aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And having to ask myself, do I want to deplete the little bit of money that I have in my 401k for this business? How am I going to do this?
Right.
And where is this capital coming from? And at the time, mind you, this was very early, like, you know, like 28, 27, 2016-ish, right? I didn't think like, oh, Barbara just pitched to investors. I didn't even know I heard people doing it, but I'm thinking of it as in terms of like larger corporations, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So all I'm thinking about is just trying to sell as much as possible so that we can make a return on the investment. And mind you, I think we only started with like $1,000 to start the business.
Mm-hmm.
And that did not even include the amount of money that I already spent ordering all the other stuff that I was ordering.
For your research prior. Right.
Yeah, my research, Tupperware, ordering things from just ordering things from Amazon, not ordering it from wholesale suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my mindset went into hustle mode and I started hosting parties at my house and going to girls' parties, like spa parties.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sharing my story and doing facials and doing that and doing as many local events as possible to get the brand name out there and to get regular girls to buy into it. But what I also learned very early on, and I'm not sure the market, I realize that the market is very particular here in South Florida, is that people don't care to buy from regular folks. It wasn't cool to buy from locals at the time. And they were like, girl, what you doing? Why are you selling soap? Like, oh, this is cute.
So you're having a heyday today, but back then it was like, I'm an entrepreneur. And they're like, why?
They're like, oh, this is great.
That's cute.
This is great. But what do you do full time? Okay, then. Oh, you got this clay mask? Oh, this
especially as Caribbeans, right? We do professional type things, and you always wonder about those who have their own clothing or hair or items. You're always worried about them, right? Because our families have programmed us to do the teacher, lawyer, doctor, you know, those very reliable, predictable roles.
So this is how I feel. I feel like there's two Caribbean people. You have that one, and then you have the one that lives that ITAL life, right? That all things natural.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, Sister, you know, I have this natural soap. It cures herpes, cancer, X, Y, and Z. You have those folks, right? Those were the ones that were easy to sell.
Drink this.
Yes. And then you have the other ones that are like, what? Girl, what's wrong with you?
I use Dove, right? They're like, oh, I use Dove.
That's
it's on TV, right? Too. Caribbeans love brands.
They love their Irish Spring and they love Dove. They do, right? And I'm just like I had this one lady, because we used to sell a lot of shea butter. And she was like, baby, what's the difference between this shea butter and the one in the beauty supply store for $5? And I literally had to explain to her what it was.
Yeah.
Now you know what the difference is. Now I still have to
less processed and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the raw product. But you know, she was like, baby girl, I ain't buying this from you. And that's real. Because I had to overcome that barrier and understanding that part of my strategy had to be education.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And overcoming those no's and understanding not everybody's going to get it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious. So you've pretty much been in the game for like 10 years. The beauty industry has changed. Also, people's awareness of what's natural, our access to it has also increased. Like a lot more of these types of products, ingredients are accessible. How, from your vantage point, how have things changed? What are things you think we've overcome within the industry, and what are things where you still feel like we really haven't gained that much growth in this or that area? What's your vantage points on some of those trends and kind of the state of the industry?
So I feel like what's happening is the tribes, because before you have your tribes. And when I say the tribes, you have your tribes of the naturals, you have your tribes of the eco wellness girls, you have your tribes back then. And then you had your mass market where, you know, for me selling one at a time wasn't the most efficient, because it was smart, but it wasn't the most efficient because I was hitting more of the masses and not my direct consumer. Mm-hmm. Whereas girls that were already introduced to living a more conscious, being a more conscious consumer, we're more easier to sell, right? And so very early on, when I got online, when I realized I need to get online and find who my demographic is, I learned the tribes, right? You have your tribes of women, because a lot of people would say, why aren't you telling this to Black women? And I'm like, I am. It's just, they're harder to find in my community because I had left from one city and I came back home, and I'm trying to reintegrate myself into the community and finding where this was, because I left as a teenager, right?
Yeah.
And I find that with the natural industry, the internet has allowed the clean beauty industry to kind of messaging of self-care and reading the ingredients to take over through marketing. And these tribes who've already have been doing it are also those vehicles to share that and spread that information. Where before doing it, where let's just say, for example, I would pop up at Miami Fashion Week. While that isn't my demo, I was just thinking, I need to get the logo out. I need to do marketing. Let me get as many people to see it. People were like, oh, this smells good. Let me get a massage. Okay, thank you. Sign up for your newsletter. Whereas now everybody knows it's kind of the standard where no SLS, no sulfate, no X, Y, and Z in the products. It's now the norm, but that has
they're looking for that too, right? A lot of them are coming to you.
Some people even still don't know what it means, right? But they just don't want it in there. Some people don't know what vegan is, and they still want vegan products. Some people still don't know, they'll be like, I just want to make sure it's cruelty free. I'm like, okay.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's good. So I feel like the more we talk about it in terms of the industry, the more people are being able to receive the information and understand why, where it was just this one weird Black girl who's trying to sell me natural products, because it's very funny. I remember when I worked at Sprint in my early 20s, it was a young lady in there. I don't know if she was Jamaican, but she had the Wicks. You know what Wicks are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And being from South Florida, I've seen very eclectic women on different groups of people because, this is the Mecca. You get people from all over. But this was my first time seeing like a young lady with Wicks in a profession. First of all, a young lady with Wicks, and then having her in a professional environment. And she had the most calming aura about her. And she had this very kind of like Mother Earth look.
Vibe, yeah.
Yeah. And she was selling soaps at the time. And I was just like you, where your parents was like, girl, if it ain't in packaging, it ain't say Dove or Irish Spring, don't go near it. And I was like, Barbara, you about this natural life. Why don't you go support her? And I'm just like, I don't know enough information.
Right.
But I'll support her from afar, But what that taught me was that because I didn't know and understand, but she had a customer base in there where she was selling, I believe it was goat milk soap or something like that, or milk soap. I was just like, oh, she said what she said. She's doing good over there. Okay, I'm just gonna go to Whole Foods, because it just legitimized it for me.
Yes.
But it had to start from somewhere, not understanding that those companies on the shelf at Whole Foods have their own beginner story, right?
Too.
And they may even be the ones that look like the hippie. They may even be the one that have that earth energy. But because it was already on the shelf, that legitimized it for me, right? And so that was one of the barriers that I had to overcome here. And I feel like the beauty industry has helped because of the many different subgroups and groups and tribes online being able to champion. And I think the messaging of self-love and self-care help drive that message and understanding why it's important in our just right now, even more but even more. And I would say this comes to me. Remember that case with Johnson & Johnson where that woman who had the cancer and she won the case, and that kind of also feel like legitimized what everybody was saying.
People's concerns. Yeah,
people's concerns, because just being Black, not even being from the Caribbean, we live with baby powder. Yeah. Even till this day, when you go to the Caribbean, you see a girl powdered up
all over the neck. Right?
All over the neck. I remember I went to Jamaica a few years back, and I was like, what is this on her neck? Like, oh, she's still wearing baby powder.
Right. Still
because
happening.
That's how you regulate the
Keep
temperature
cool
when you're outside.
And smell fresh.
And you bathe your baby in baby powder, and this thing that you're using on your child, or this thing that you're using on a daily basis, is causing harm, was linked to this woman being sick and winning and being able to prove that. I think that also drove the message even more.
Yeah. Like not all of the big brands are, everything about what they do is perfect. They have the legitimacy. They have a lot of trust. And yes, they have big research teams, but even them, they're not infallible to maybe their products not being the most perfect things out there. They're not infallible to that, right?
Well said.
They
exactly.
themselves can fall to, this over time caused some harm to people. Maybe not intended, but still it shows that, they're not perfect just because they're on the shelf and large and in charge.
And I also feel like with this over time, we're now holding these bigger brands
accountable. Absolutely.
Accountable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody is now a scientist and they want to read the back of labels and dissect it. And then, now you're holding these brands accountable. And now, 5, 6, 7 years later, this is now the norm where everybody has now a clean initiative.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely one of the things I think. The competitive landscape for clean beauty is growing rapidly. But I also know from some other conversations, we still have to be careful because just like with greenwashing, I think clean washing, I don't know if that's the word for it, but essentially like not letting the packaging or certain keywords make you think it's all there. You still have to do that due diligence and say, is it actually sustainable if that's what I care about? Is it actually whatever claims I'm being told? Is it how deep is that? I know you made some decisions as a part of your product to put it in glass and in recyclable packaging, to use paper for your labels. Talk to us more about some of the design around why you made some of those choices for your product line.
I'm happy you mentioned that because I do know and realize right now clean is under fire in terms of the ambiguousness of the fear mongering marketing. And that has been a result of just random businesses and even big businesses that are doing the greenwashing. And the greenwashing is the misleading of marketing, right?
Yeah.
To get consumers to purchase the products. But at the end of the day, remember I told you very early on, I fell into that box of no preservatives.
Yeah.
The more I started learning about formulations, the more I started learning about science. Water is a chemical. Everything is a chemical.
Everything is a chemical. Yeah.
And that's what we don't realize is that a plant is a chemical, right? And the essential oils is a chemical. You can't put essential oils directly onto your skin. It needs a carrier oil so that it can dilute it. And I think that is the missing component is that the way things are formulated right now in terms of clean or just things are formulated.
Or plant-based and there's like no chemicals, plant-based, when it's like the plants are made of chemical components. It's on the periodic chart, which means
exactly.
That's like a component, it is. Right?
But there are brands that have just water and straight preservatives. So I understand that, right? And there isn't any, I'm even surprised still to this day that there are products that are just made with no plant components. But then there are products that are made with plant components and then there's no preservatives. Like how is it going to sit on the shelf if you're in the shower? What about mildew? What about shelf life? What about rancidness? And I feel like that is the missing component to talk about where everything is a chemical, but we're talking about clean in terms of transparency, clean in terms of labeling, cleans in terms of sourcing, right?
Yep.
And then, what is your intention? Is it just to move these products or is it to actually be more result driven? Because a lot of these products where, some of them are a lot of them are result driven, right? Where they work
some
a
are
lot
not
quicker.
efficacious. Some are not efficacious though.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And then the biggest, before I answer your question, the other biggest problem with natural products is that they smell good and they feel good, but do they really work?
Yep.
Right? Let's just say, for example, you grew up in the island or just being a Black, you get sick and your mama go get some bush tea outside. It's going to take a few hours for that to kick in.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had your experience where you've probably been sick and they were lathering your body up with all types of crazy stuff. And you're like, why are they beating me with leaves? Why are you making me drink this nasty?
So now in the Bahamas, we don't beat with leaves, but
no, you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Yes.
But the Cerasee is a big one. I don't know if y'all have that. Cerasee, like a herb. Most of them people fences.
It grows everywhere here. The Cerasee
that heals everything. Quote unquote.
It heals everything. It heals
what? And the effect of it in terms of like the placebo effect is large because you really do think you're like, I'm good. I had Cerasee.
Girl.
The placebo effect is amazing.
Yes.
We probably really should study some Cerasee.
Listen, I've had people tell me like, you don't got Cerasee soap? And I'm like, bruh, like what?
We take that one ingredient, we're like, put it in everything because it's so good.
Your parents would go off to the fence and they'll boil this and be like, drink this. And I'd be like, can I put a little sugar in it? No, the sugar is bad for you. But those things, back to what
also,
I was saying.
The sugar is not going to help with bitter Cersei at all. It is not going to help.
No, it's just chug it, right? You got to chug it.
Hold your nose, chug it.
The difference is that, those natural products take time.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're taking care of yourself the whole time you're living, you won't have to use these extreme products. And I'm not saying chemicals aren't bad because we need them, right? You need chemicals in medicine. You need chemicals in X, Y, and Z. You need preservatives. But I think the goal is to live a healthy and wholesome life so that you don't have to, right? In terms of like our packaging, what I realize is that how can I say that I'm clean or green and I'm using plastic? And then also factoring in our carbon footprint. That's when I started learning about carbon footprint and our sourcing partners. And also because a lot of our ingredients, if you've probably seen our ingredients, we have jackfruit, pineapple, hibiscus,
really
coconut,
great ingredients, recognizable even.
Exactly. So I wanted to use things that were local or that I knew personally, because you can only use some of the same ingredients, but so much, right? And I asked myself, how could I make JACQ'S uniquely different? And I am different. I am unique. So why not use the things that I know and research them in a way? But how can they say that they're green and they're in a plastic container? And I had a customer ask me that one time. She was like, this is plastic. And I was like, yeah, it helps with packaging. It helps with shipping, blah, 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 blah. And she was just like,
to walk the walk.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so for me to do that, I
to
had
walk the walk. Yeah.
Exactly. It may cost a little bit more because it's in glass packaging. It may cost in a little bit more because you may have to do that extra step. But as a matter of fact, you don't even need to do the extra step because it's sustainable, right? So you can recycle it, you can put it in the trash or put it in a recycling bin, and it goes back into, it just gets reused. Whereas opposed to I'm not going to lie to you. In the past 10 years, the evolution of sustainable packaging has evolved.
Oh, it's big time.
And it's still evolving. And some of the things that I've learned that are coming out has just been phenomenal. But going back to the basics of just glass, there's a level of quality there that when you receive a product in glass packaging, you know your money is well spent, right? You know that if, let's just say you have that box container, you can put it in the recycling bin, and it's not just going to, because my husband gets on me because he's like, you don't know how to recycle. And I'm like, dude, I know how to recycle. Even styrofoam, you can't recycle that.
Right.
Most cities are doing away with plastic bags because, they're a nuisance to the environment. But just those little things, like for example, in our home, we recycle. We live in a city where it forces us to recycle, which I love.
Yeah.
But when people come over, I'm just like, don't put that in the trash. Please don't put that in the trash. We have another bag right here.
Yes.
It's just the little things, right? That will help, because when I'm gone, I would want my kids to be able to live in an environment that was not torn down or just,
destroyed. Yeah.
Destroyed.
Because we didn't take care of it.
If you grew up here, you know that there was a campaign in the early 90s and not to dump trash or just to pollute. And I think that messaging has gotten lost.
Yes.
Where people they just don't care anymore in terms of taking care of the community that you live in, but thinking about the long terms in terms of Mother Earth and what that looks like in terms of life cycle, water, using things just to dispose of it and throw it away. Just no. So I wanted to make sure that sustainability, and the reason why I keep looking over here because that's my board, like where we have all our pillars.
You have all your stuff on there,
yeah, my pillars. That we were very transparent about making sure that we were using glass bottles, and people were complaining about the price, but we had to explain to them that there's a reason why it's this way, and understanding that you can actually reuse. We have customers reusing the products, and a lot of our customers, because our boxes are soft touch, they'll keep the packaging and reuse that as well, or just keep it on their dressers. But understanding that there's a level of responsibility that once it leaves me, goes onto the customer to help take care of this earth,
Yeah.
Not to sound like a little.
I love that more of us, we've had a good number of guests who really focus on sustainability. And I love that it's not just a white people conversation. I think so many of the brands today that are Black and brown owned are thinking about sustainability, are thinking about better. And I think one of the things from our community, we would say that, even recycling back in the day, you would say all of that was like white people things. But as we all start to realize that we deserve all of those things, understand why we're doing it, and say, hey, we want that for ourselves, our community, our future. It's now something we're seeing embedded into more businesses and more causes for our community. I love to see that.
You know what I feel like, just to kind of add it, because if you're from the Caribbean, you already know recycling is actually embedded in the community. And the reason why I say that, not just in plastic bags where we recycle the plastic bags, make them into trash can, plastic bags, right?
For the bathroom.
Right? If you go to the Caribbean, there's a huge recycling thing where the cans and even the glass bottles, when they put it back into, like, there's a recycling plant where the glass bottles are recycled, cleaned, disinfected, and then they just reuse it again. Even the cans, like you'll see community members that are just collecting stuff and putting it.
I mean, most of our grandmothers have cookie containers made out of tin that they've repurposed into a jewelry box, or if a product like tomato sauce came in glass, they're using that as a cup or as a storage container.
Listen, if you still go to your parents' house and they're sending food home, you about to get that in a butter container. Okay. You're going to get that in what is it, butter cloth? Because I haven't bought this butter.
I haven't bought this butter, but I know the container.
You're going to get it
flexible
in a butter
packaging.
Container. Yes. You're going to get you're going to get the Chinese containers. That is recycling. They're not, and you can't throw it away. They're going to be like, where's my container? And you'd be like, yo, like we can get Tupperware. And they're like, bring me back my container.
Yeah. This is Tupperware.
That is living sustainable instead of throwing it away. And they'll take that, like you said, the spaghetti jar, and they'll put their spices in there and mix it up, and that's in the fridge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are things our community is doing. So I'm curious, at what point did you elevate your packaging and make it so professional and awesome? I just want the Boss Fam to understand the process of iterating and how it may not start off. You were hustling and selling at events, and now your product is on Target.com and on your own website and expanding, right? At what point did you formalize some of these things and were able to get to that next level? What are the same things that went into that type of growth?
I'm happy you asked this question, because I think a lot of the time when we go into business, you have an idea of what you want your business to look like and feel, and make it aesthetically pleasing. And initially, because that wasn't a thing then, right? Mm-hmm. And I wasn't even thinking about doing it seriously. I'm going to tell you a quick story.
Yes,
but when
please.
I did it, true story, my logo, I bought it off of a young lady. A young lady made it for me on Etsy, and I bought it for like $40.
Wow.
I paid her, I think, $100 to design my packaging, kind of gave her the 3 words in terms of the feel. Mm-hmm. She was like, what colors do you want? And I'm like, I'm from the Caribbean, girl. Give me all these colors. Give me all the colors,
Right.
And she hand painted, she's like, it's natural. So she hand painted some, so she hand painted the labels, and she put them on the screen, or screen printed them. I think that's what it was. And then I had the different packaging. And I was just like, initially before that, I was just using craft paper, from Michael's to wrap them up with a little bit of string. And selling it that way. And when I started to realize that this was a viable product, one of my mentors, he asked me what my goal was. And he told me straight up, he was like, you're targeting because I was targeting me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He said, let me ask you a question. Would you buy this from you? He was like, dead serious. Older Jewish.
And after the story you told us about the lady selling the products to you, like what that is, I'm a support from afar. We know you wouldn't buy it from you.
Yeah. I mean, this was before then, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, no. And he's like, so why would you want to sell this at this price point when your packaging doesn't say quality? Right? It looks like you were making it in your kitchen. You threw something together, because that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And while I did have my little friends and family purchasing, after a while, your friends and family not gonna purchase anymore unless they really love the product. But They're going to go out to the store and buy their products because they don't have to go through you, you know? I went through, I think, 5 different iterations of my packaging. And I still feel like we're going to go through another one at some point. The first one, I was just like, I'm not emotionally tied to it. The second one, I was like, okay. The third one I did, it was catching eyes, right? Because then I started thinking of it in terms of a marketer. Like, what is visually appealing? He said that he wouldn't buy it for me. Why would he buy it? And I was selling the products at like $5 and $6. I really wasn't selling it. I was just trying to move product, right? And this was an older gentleman who worked at Estee Lauder in the 60s and 70s. And he was like, formulation means nothing. He said, packaging is everything, right? He's like, and your marketing. So he's like, you got to catch them very early on. And it wasn't like I got it right. It's me as I'm evolving and growing also, because I have my own visual, but understanding that what Barbara likes may not be what everybody else likes, right? But it's about moving the product, but catching this customer's eye and being able to stand off the shelf next to my competitors. What would make this person pull this before pulling that? Right? And understanding that I needed to invest a little bit more every time because I was only working with a limited budget, right? And then number 2, I needed to be able to put as much information on there without making it look crazy. But still making it, like, oh, girl, I like this, And once I got it right if you ever Google JACQ'S, you'll see our white packaging where we had white packaging.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
That kind of put us on the map a little bit, It did not even a little bit, a lot of it. That's when everybody started catching on. And I wasn't even in love with it. I was just like, Everybody was doing white. And I was just like, oh, I think we picked the wrong one. But everybody was like, oh my gosh, did you see this brand? Oh my gosh, we got to check out this brand. And I was like, okay, maybe it might be working. Hold on.
It was simple, I think that simplicity, people gravitate towards that because it does speak, maybe that means the product is simple and pure.
Yes. Yes. And then we went to where we started to work with retailers. Like when I say retailers, not Target or Ulta or a big name box, but just mom and pop green boutiques. And they were like, the feedback then was, it's too simple. It's too simple, or everybody's starting to do all white, not real. And at the time we were doing it before everybody, but they started getting to retailers before we did, or I did. Right. And now I'm instead of being ahead of the curve, now I'm behind and I'm trying to catch up. And they're like, it looks like everything else. So I'm having to change the packaging again, because it's starting to blend in with everyone else. And how do we stand out now? And then we went to the blue packaging. I love the blue packaging, but then it started speaking to men, which was a good thing because then we started men started gravitating towards the blue, but then women felt like it wasn't for them because it didn't, it was blue, right?
It was blue.
So with this one, it took a while for me to sit with it because I'm not going to lie to you. I went through 5 or 6 revisions of it. 3 different graphic designers.
Oh, wow. You're like, I'm not feeling it. I'm going to get someone else.
Because with every reiteration of it, I felt like JACQ'S was leveling up. I'm just going to be honest with you. We're growing, right? And now I'm no longer just wanting to get into mom and pop stores. We're trying to reach a master audience, but our target audience, right? And so I thought about, what do you like, Barbara? It's not about the customers. We know that I'm still going to let's start with what I like, I know I like beautiful packaging. I know I want it to make it luxurious. If we say that this is clean, there's a level of excellence that needs to go behind it. Let's make sure that when they touch the box, they feel that. Right. So when you touch it, it feels pretty. It's soft, it's, and then the ombre effect of it, because the pink radiates, it's a symbol of love. And if we're talking about self-care, why not every time you open it, you have that message to remind you to slay naturally, to take time for yourself. And so we did the different variations of the pink because that one pink just wasn't enough, but there's different shades. There's different, as a woman, there's different layers to you, right? There's a hood side.
Hey.
There's the professional side. There's the girlfriend side.
Right.
There's the lover side. There's different variations of you. And each one of and even naming our products, because even the names have evolved as well. Where I remember we had like Lavender Love and Carrot Con Leche. But then as I started to grow myself, my skincare regimen needed to change as well.
Yeah.
Because when you're thinking about Black women in skincare, just women of color who have melanin, we suffer from hyperpigmentation, which is a big thing.
Yeah.
Sunscreen just became the norm.
Yeah.
And then we don't think about protecting our skin as we age. And then acne, you still tend to break out. I have one of my best friend's dads is still, he's in his 60s and he still gets pimples. And so this is, an ongoing issue, but let's create a skincare regimen that will address those three issues, but in a very slow and elegant way, right? And so, number one, you want to heal your skin, right? Number two, you want to nourish your skin. Number three, you want to revitalize it. You want to pour back into it. Sometimes you need to clarify and start all over with the mask. And so those components and the naming of it all plays a major role, because it's a reminder to pour back into yourself, but the slow living, one thing I love about the Caribbean is when you go back, it forces you, if you're not staying at a hotel, is the slow living where there is no
one's
TV.
in a rush.
No one's in a rush. No one's in a rush. You get up, you make your coffee, you have your breakfast, you take your time. It's the slowness where you're able to just check in with yourself and remember to pour back into yourself before you head out. And there is, you have your timeline or your day planned out, but it's taking a moment to just be present. And so from the feel, the smell, the touch, and all of it played a major role in how we designed the entire collection.
So at this point, are you still self-manufacturing? Are you using a co-manufacturer? Tell me some of the relationships you build from a production or manufacturing standpoint that, are more of like mature company type moves versus when you first started and you were doing a lot more things DIY.
Yeah. So we're still manufacturing in-house.
Awesome.
Yes. My goal is to manufacture in-house. I want to be one of those Black-owned brands that manufactures in-house. And we put a hold on it, but we do private labeling. Or I was going to
ask you that too. Yeah.
Because I think that is a missing component in the beauty industry. And there are some small co-packers that are behind a lot of the brands that you see that are Black-owned. But I want to do that myself. Right now, we still manufacture, and we're temporarily going to have a co-packer do it for us while we scale, because it just doesn't make sense until we raise enough capital to do it, because it is pricey. But it allowed me to, what that has allowed me to do is to own my formulations.
Yeah. Yep.
And then it also allows me to change and tweak it, because ingredients change or new things come in, and we're able to tweak it in a cost-effective way. Whereas if we were to go through a manufacturer that's manufacturing it, producing it, packaging it, it's going to cost more money. And because of the way my story started, I didn't start where I was like, let me go to a scientist or a formulator and get this done. We worked with scientists and formulators to help us with the formulation. But what this did was it allowed me to get to know the formula and tweak it the way the customers like it, right? So like our cleanser, it's been with me from the day one. And eventually we just tweak it from time to time. We'll add new things and announce it. But this formulation has been the same, and that has allowed me to be able to play with it without it costing me an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
And keep it still in-house. Sometimes I like to, from time to time, I'll mentor other brands where, they'll ask me for advice. And this is the advice that I give them, is to make sure you own that formulation.
Always. Yep.
Always own that formulation, because even if the manufacturer changes it and you've brought in that formulation, they now own it. And a lot of people don't know that. And so you being able to tweak it, or at least get a formulator to formulate it for you, and then you bring it to the co-packer or the manufacturer, at least you're able to own that piece, because that's now your proprietary formula, right? So that's where we are, but we are in the process of outsourcing it temporarily until we are able to keep it in-house, because COVID has taught us that you got to own your own stuff, right? Middleman makes it much harder when you're running a CPG, a consumer product good.
Yeah. It's really cool that you could in the future be a contract manufacturer. That's an awesome opportunity for sure. I think one of the barriers for brands is really that space between doing it themselves and then not having the time to scale and work on the business part if they don't have the amount of, people in-house to really develop. And if they want to just pay for the expertise of someone to help them, there's that gap, because a lot of these firms do require more, right? And there's more competition. So some of the smaller brands have a harder time getting started and scaling because there's not that opportunity in between all the time for them to scale.
Yeah, it's definitely, you can do it. It's going to cost you.
It's going to cost you.
It's going to cost you. And, one of the things with the DIY is making sure you're working with a formulator, because putting it in a bottle and then just selling it is one thing. But when you're selling it at a mass, it's definitely different, because you need to make sure you can test the formulas, make sure that what you're claiming is actually it. And then also making sure that, you're a person of your word. You don't want to just sell products that you don't even know are working, or sell products that are bad.
Yeah, trust, and that's trust, right? Trust is a big thing.
That's the efficacy of the
efficacy.
The form. Yeah, that efficacy. Girl, efficacy. Yes.
Efficacy. I got you. So that's really good advice for those who are wondering, like, what does that journey look like? And again, I think it does vary, but I think that's a great answer for the community. Like, do what you can do what's within your realm. And as you grow, look for those opportunities to scale. But a lot of things you can do on your own. And definitely in this case with beauty, get the backing of a formulator, someone who can make sure what you're putting in the bottle is effective, it's potent, it's delivering the claims that you say it's delivering each time, so that you're not, you're not suffering you're not causing your brand to suffer if something goes wrong. You have the backing of that formulator who's making sure it's all right. That's really great. So tell me about the milestone of Target.com. That's really amazing.
Yes. Where do we start, girl? Yes. So we recently launched in Target on August 1st of 2021. And we launched with 6 products. Our 3 hero products, which is our cleanser, toner, moisturizer, and then 3 new products on Target, which includes a probiotic face mask, a restorative niacinamide face serum, and an acne spot treatment.
Yes.
This is kind of like my second go round, to be honest with you, with Target. The first go round, they reached out to me maybe about 3.5 years ago, that one of the buyers emailed me, and I really didn't think it was Target.
You're like, who's this fake thing? I don't believe it. They're emailing me?
I think because I had a bad call with somebody that catfished me, right? Email catfish.
Wow.
Or you get a lot of spam emails where people try to sell you stuff like, hey, I can get you here. Hey, I can help you with this. And hey, and I got on the call, and I think at that point, I probably was having a bad week or 2 weeks or something. And you take these meetings, but at the end of the day, when you're running a business, these meetings eat up your time. And the most valuable asset that you have is your time. Because that's how you make money, right? I'm just saying.
You're right.
And how you spend your time and who you give your time with is very, very, it's valuable. So when you start entertaining, because I get a lot of emails, and I'm sure you probably relate to this, where you get a lot of troll emails, and these people are you get on the call. I remember I even get emails from random like troll investors where you're like, okay, you research the company, you have an amazing website, you research them, and then they're like, who are you? And then I'm like,
I thought you knew who I was. That's why we're here.
Exactly. And they send you this amazing email. I think I got a troll email, and I jumped on the call, and I was just like over it, because they sell you with these big box retailers, like, put it in there. We can get you here. We can get you there. Let's schedule a meeting, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, okay. Little old me. They want to get little old me. Okay, let's get on the call. And I was just like, 5,000, 10,000. What? Like, what do we talk about? Like, and then I got to fly where? And then I got to come up to this conference, and there's no guarantee. And I'm just like, get off my call, like get off. So I was just not in the headspace to receive it.
That sounds overwhelming.
It is.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, when you go into business, there's a lot of scammers. I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
But I was just like, let me not respond to this email. And normally I would be like, thank you, not interested, you know? But I was like, I ain't even respond. Like, this spam. You got through the spam. Okay, whatever. And then she was like, hey, Barbara, do you really, this is Target. Like, I was like, is this real?
Hopefully they understand.
I was like, is this, and she was like, yeah, we and I was like, oh, okay. But it didn't work out at the beginning because I wasn't ready to scale, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I did
you do any of the accelerators or any types of programs like that ever?
No, didn't. I think I applied for one of the accelerators, didn't get in. But what I learned on that call is that I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Right. I had the goal of getting in Target, but I wasn't ready in terms of scaling and understanding what that looked like. In terms of the marketing dollars that goes behind it, understanding the strategy that goes behind it, but more so the team on my end, because we weren't, and I feel like maybe I was, but I didn't understand, like now being in it, like you have to be ready. It's not just get Target and then let's go. Where is the money? And what are you going to do to get in? Like, what are you going to do to market it? And what does that look like? And who are your partners are going to be? And how are you going to share this information to the community to get them excited about it? I'm hungry, but you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. Yeah.
That's smart.
So for me, it took, and then when I realized like, dang, I dropped the ball on that one. I was beating myself up for the longest time because I was like, I don't understand like what I did wrong. And it took me a minute to, like where you go back and analyze what you've done in the call and because I felt like I had the people around me feeding me the information in terms of what to say and get things ready, but I didn't even think about scaling, right? I was just thinking about, we can get this order out, but Target is a game changer. You know what I mean? And the orders are not anything to play with. It's not like I'm just sending out 1,000 or 500. Like this is mass distribution and understanding what that comes with, fulfilling it, what that comes with marketing, what that comes with, like it takes a team and it takes a lot of people to put it together. But
how many people are on the JACQ'S team right now to help you undertake?
It's not a lot of us. It's about 3 of us. It's not a lot. But when I mean team, I'm talking about like behind the scenes in terms of manufacturing. I'm talking about marketing and I still feel like I'm dropping the ball. Like we could definitely be doing better. But when you're dealing with a mass retailer, you have to show up in a different way. It's sink or swim. And I wasn't ready. And I realized that on the call after being able to sit and I'm like, Barbara, what did you do? What did you say wrong? Like, what did you do? Because the story was there, the products were there, but I really wasn't ready, right? And then, a young lady approached me who's in Target now, a really good friend of mine. And she was just like, you got to be ready to do it if you're going to do it. And she kind of helped me along the way.
Good.
And being able to sit and really resolve the existing issues that we had to scale, because we're still trying to resolve some of the issues, but getting my mind right, because it's been a 1.5-year conversation with Target.
Yeah.
And then understanding how the buyers think, right? Because not every door you knock on is going to say yes. Right? Yeah. But then understanding that there's a no for a reason. And they may not necessarily want your brand in there. And that's okay. But what I had to understand was you were a good Target fit because they reached out to you. I didn't reach out to them.
Yeah.
Right. But I had some holes in the business that I needed to fill in. Right. And I am small, but what I love about Target is that they're working with small brands, it's particularly indie brands, and it's not just Black brands. Yeah. They work with you to scale because they understand that they're a machine. But in order to get to that level, there are steps that you need to take in order to get to that level, that massive level, to be able to be in 1,200 doors, to be able to even get 50 doors or get 100 doors or 200 doors. and you have a quota to meet each month because you got to move the product. You're not selling just to be on the shelf. Being on the shelf is the goal, but that's just the first. That's just not even. That's just the first part, right?
That's the first part.
Yeah.
Then you have to drive demand, right? We keep getting entrepreneurs remind us of this. And I really want the Boss Fam to hear this. It is a great step, but like you said, you wanted to get in there. That was still the goal, but you realized you weren't ready. And it's better to be ready than to get in there prematurely and cause more harm, right? Mm-hmm. For your brand or for the relationship with any retailer.
Yeah, because that's a negative impression on you. It's a negative impression on you. Well, you're allowed to make mistakes because not every retailer you're going to excel in, right? But it does make you, it's like the SWOT analysis. You know what your strengths are, you know what your weaknesses are, you know what the threats are. But when you run a campaign and it doesn't work, which is what we're going through right now, like, why? Why didn't it not work? What could you have done better? And constantly analyzing to do better, right? In a way where you're not beating yourself up, because in business, when you fail, that is money.
That's money. Yep.
There is money and time, but that is a necessary L that you have to take in order for you to be able to, unless you have investors, you're still gonna may take an L. Even investors investing in you, it's a risk. They may or may not even get the money back, but you just have to, sometimes you just take an L and you got to learn from it. Right.
Yeah.
But also realizing that I wasn't ready. And when I was, it took me a minute to get there.
Yeah. So speaking of investors, did you bootstrap up until this point? And are you taking investors now? What's that looking like for you?
So we're not going to say bootstrapped. What we did was we hustled. It's all self-funded, right? JACQ'S is all self-funded. We're actually in the process of raising our seed capital right now.
Awesome.
So that is exciting, but it's also very stressful.
Yes.
Be up in the middle of the night, research it. Yes, because I'm doing the work, right?
Yes.
But it's all self-funded. And I don't think there's a negative is negative. Like when you say bootstrapped, everything that we make go back into the company. It's not easy because you got to sell, and there's no additional income coming in, and whatever income that we have coming in is, it's self-funded.
To live. Yeah.
Yeah, it's to live. So, JACQ'S is definitely self-funded, and we're in the process of raising our seed capital right now. So,
wow. So you're about to learn a lot and share it with the Boss Fam. So are you working with a group to help you with kind of learn that process, or you're like going to learn it and be a part, like lead that yourself?
No, I'm not working with a group. Not just yet. We'll see. Right. I'm still learning it because before I can get into this finance, because bringing in someone into your business is not, it's like having a boss, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you've got to be accountable for your numbers and you got to pay the money back. Mm-hmm. So I'm like I said, I'm a person that loves information. So I need to know what I'm getting myself into before I get into it. Number one. And then number two, I want to be able to know, just basically know what I'm getting myself into. Because getting money running your business by yourself is one thing. But getting somebody else to give you money is something different.
Oh yeah. Different pressure.
It's a different kind of pressure. Yeah, it's a different kind of pressure. Because number one, this person believes in you and believes in the business that they're going to get the return on the investment, that you're going to flip it. But then also you having to show up and hustle at you're already hustling now, but you're going to have to hustle at a different level.
Yeah.
And that's what we're working on, and just trying to find the right investors to make sure that it's, a symbiotic relationship, and that we're not just taking money from any Joe Schmo. And they understand the plight of being a Black woman and what our mission is.
Yes.
And that they have some type of interest in helping us execute it and succeed,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's next frontier, right? For JACQ'S is really trying to grow your distribution and formalize a number of things.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Next frontier is, so we're raising capital. We're scaling, we're expanding into retail, and just trying to take over the world one customer at a time.
One customer at a time. We love that. So I'm going to ask, and we definitely shared some moments of this, but I'll let you crystallize it. What does it mean to be Black on shelf? Black, Haitian, a mom, a survivor. What does that mean to be Black on shelf for you?
Oh my gosh. It means power. It means evolution. I mean, for me, I feel like it means success. Because there's not a lot of us here, but without the small mom and pop Black owned brands that are here to actually provide and create products for that actually solve problems in our community is powerful. So being Black on shelf is powerful because it also resonates. It shows people, everyday people, because I'm a normal girl, that you can have a goal, a dream, and you can reach that goal. And the goal is attainable. All you got to do is just work. And that's the power of being in the US, coming from an immigrant family, right? So being one of the, I'm just going to own this. One of the first Haitian owned brands on Target shelf is powerful. And it speaks volume in terms of being able to put hard work together and being able to execute it and having a community behind you, right? That recognizes and see, because this is what I want to say to the community is that for those of you that are working hard late nights, that for those of you that are maybe clocking in a 9 to 5, or that young lady or that young man that has quit his job and put the hustle behind the business, we see you. And even when you don't think anybody's watching you, they are watching you.
Yeah.
Your name is in rooms that you have not even entered yet. Because when I tell you that God is real and working hard pays off, it pays off. Because I'm telling you, I'm just a young little Black girl, a little Haitian girl from Liberty City, Miami.
Hey.
Here, this was not in my goal. But once I set this goal and realized this was what I wanted to attain, it is attainable. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, and it may happen overnight for you, but your hard work will pay off eventually. And you may not necessarily, and it may be hard because your family member may not understand it. Your friends may not understand it. You might lose some people along the way, but do not lose sight of that goal and do not lose sight of that vision, because your hard work, we see you out here in the community. We see your work. And it's even more prevalent on Instagram where we're highlighting and you see someone that is putting their all into whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
And you can see the fruits of their labor, and you don't know where that's going to open up and where that's going to lead. But when you do see them shine, they shine bright.
Yeah.
And so for you that's there working on your side hustle or working on this goal or working on this vision, hold tight onto that goal. And you may feel, it may be lonely. It is going to be lonely. But hold on to it, create that community around you that will rally behind you and support you in those dark times, because that light at the end of the tunnel is just around the corner.
Yeah. Barbara, you're so real. We're falling in love with you as we speak. You're becoming, one of those top entrepreneurs where it's just so real, so accessible. And we need more of that, because I think, people tend to think, they don't always exude that power status that can build a brand and get it to all the places that we all dream of. But, you're definitely living proof. And I try to bring folks like you on because we could identify with that. We could identify with that part of us that's like, oh, I'm going to keep working until this happens. And I think you're such a great example of that mindset of keep working at it, continue to keep the dream alive. You've really made that attitude, that mindset work for you. And now we're seeing the fruits of your labor, and it's very inspiring and encouraging for sure.
Thank you. And I think, oftentimes we see the byproduct or the end story.
Yeah.
But we don't know, Disney was homeless drawing the Mickey Mouse, like the Squid Games. He said he pitched it to Netflix 10 years in a row, and they said no. It may not necessarily be right now. And I think oftentimes we get frustrated, but I feel like building that community around you to support you and creating that entrepreneur cabinet. And when I say cabinet, right? Like calling them your business bestie, because I have a handful of them. Because they help put you on. They help open the doors. They're in places that you are not, and you are in places. So you put each other on. you get to test out different strategies or bounce ideas. These are the people that are going to help elevate you. Not the foolishness,
Yeah.
You don't have, and then, for me, like, you have to make these sacrifices. For me, I made a lot of sacrifices, girl, Lord Jesus knows, but, but I'm starting to see the fruits of the labor, right?
Yes. And we support that. That's what we want to root for, more and more of that. How can we follow? Where can we follow?
So you can follow me on Instagram. You can look for me under Barbara Jacques. You can follow me on the Shop JACQ'S page on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But yeah, that's where I be. That's where I hang out at. But I definitely appreciate you so very much for allowing me to be a guest on this show and sharing my story. I know my story is not the traditional, like, 3-year success, blah, 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 blah. But I just wanted to share my real story in terms of having this side hustle and being able to grow it from nothing into something.
Yeah.
But to encourage those people that feel like they have something, but they just don't know where to start, or they may feel a little discouraged, that it is possible. And it just takes a little bit of time, but if you have to go back into get a side hustle job just to pay your bills, go ahead and do that. People may laugh at you. Go ahead and do it. You might, like I said, you might lose some friends along the way. Like, girl, she want to start a podcast. What's she gonna be talking about? But they don't get it, and that's not their mission. That wasn't placed on their heart. But go ahead and do it. You're gonna fail. Lord knows, I failed. You're gonna fail, and you're meant to fail because that's how you learn.
That's how you learn.
But that's all I have to say.
I love it, man. We're going to have to have you on again because, I love the conversation here. I love the learnings. I think people will really be supported by it. And we're totally going to root for you and support you on all the direct consumer platforms that you're at, especially Target.com, and make sure they know it was worth it to bring Barbara.
Oh, it is worth it. We're going to get it.
Bring her on. Yeah. So that's very exciting. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your transparency. I felt it. We need that. We need so much more of that. And that's why, we hold this type of space here so that people know the things they're feeling and experience, they're not lonely with it, and some of those things are part of the process. And if they stick with it and manage through, they can make it to the places they want to go. So I think you totally encouraged us in that vein. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. And kudos to you in this podcast for sharing our stories, sharing our experiences, and sharing our voice, because without you, how would we be able to share this and learn, right?
Yeah.
But be able to see ourselves in other people, or find inspiration. So kudos to you and congratulations to you. Because you out here doing it, girl. I get it.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure. It's the easiest job alive. I get to hear inspiration all day. I love it. I feel so blessed, honestly.